our travel convention, our LGBT tourism convention was in Osaka, was by no coincidence. The tourism office of Osaka basically fought to bring that convention here, in a way to move forward the LGBT sort of, fight and argument, because Osaka, compared to Tokyo, is actually known for being more LGBT welcoming. And you're listening to Queer Travel Chat by Two Bad Tourists. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Queer Travel Chat. My name is Auston. I'm one half of the blogger duo Two Bad Tourists. Joining me as always is David here on my left.
Hey guys, I am here too. Welcome to season 4, episode 1. We are back.
Yes, we're back. So before we get started, we just want to acknowledge that there's construction in the building next to me. So if you hear some banging, that's what it is. It's a little bit out of our control, unfortunately. Yeah. We needed to
I'll see what I can do in the editing. I'd also like to acknowledge that you wore that shirt on season 3, episode 2. So I apologize in advance.
Say that as if I don't. We all own a set amount of shirts, and we
I'm just saying you could have worn a different shirt. I warned you.
All right. Well, speaking of season 3, when we last signed off in the summertime, we were actually heading to Malaga and Torremolinos in the south of Spain.
Yeah, we went there for Bears Week and the Feria de Malaga.
Yeah, so we had that going on. Fun. We since in September finished, for those of you who are listeners, you might know, we break this up into seasons, so we take the summer off. That's kind of what we're getting into. And so, yeah, we're back for season 4. We since in September hosted a group trip in Madrid with 11 guests.
That went really well. That was one of our best trips because the guests really bonded a little bit more than I would say on a normal trip. I mean, they were really enjoying each other's company and creating strong connections. I thought they still talk to each other now.
And we keep a WhatsApp group open and people still send messages.
Yeah, so it felt like a special one because everyone just vibed so much in that one. I mean, sometimes everyone always gets along, but that one just felt like extra, like everybody was each other's people. It's kind of a perfect group.
Yep.
And then we also did our Mediterranean cruise with Virgin Voyages out of Barcelona in October for a week. And we had 33 guests on that one. Also a really good time. That's when we had my sister on as head trip leader that time too, which went well. She was exhausted, but I think she had a good time.
Yeah, we've got a few Virgin cruises coming up in 2025. So check our website if you want to join any of those.
And then I also, after that, in November, went to the U.S. for Thanksgiving, visited my family in Austin, Texas, and also in Phoenix, Arizona. I hadn't been back to the U.S. for Thanksgiving since we left to go abroad. So it's been, 12 years or more since I had celebrated in the U.S. It's my favorite holiday because it's only about eating food, drinking, and socializing with your friends and family. So I had a great time to be back there. I also remembered why I hate traveling, though, for the holidays, because everyone's traveling, obviously, so it's chaos at the airports, and then you do get to see all your family, but you're seeing like 15 people at once, so you really aren't spending any quality time with anyone, and it's just kind of chaos. So I was like happy to be there, but I was like, oh yeah, this is why I don't go back for the holidays. I'd rather go any other time.
Yeah, I don't go back for holidays either. Like instead of Christmas, I do New Year's, which I appreciate.
That's a good one. I think New Year's is a good one to go back for, or then just after the holidays, January, February.
Yep.
And then you just spent a month in Torremolinos.
Yeah, so again, the little gay beach city next to Malaga in the south of Spain. I'm looking to buy an apartment down there. So was doing some house hunting at the time. And
everything went smoothly. And it was
it was a horrible experience. So we'll save that for another episode.
Maybe we should do an episode on that.
Yeah, house buying in the south of Spain.
That's a good idea. Okay, write that down. But anyway, that's not the topic of today's episode.
It is not. We're actually talking about Osaka, Japan.
Yes. Are you buying an apartment there too?
Nope, not as of the moment.
But you were just in Osaka in October?
In October, at the end of October.
Okay, so you will tell us about your trip while you were there. We'll get into all that. But since we are talking about Osaka, I like to do my fun facts. So I found 4 fun facts to share about Osaka, Japan. And I'm just curious if you learned this while you were there, or if this is going to be maybe something new for you.
I will tell you, but before we do that, I actually want to say a few words from our first sponsor, who is Booking.com. I had them out of order in the outline. But so Booking.com helped us out with some hotels in Osaka when I was there. So basically they have a program which is called Travel Proud, and it's a program where hotels can get certified through Booking.com, do a training, and basically become a welcoming property to LGBTQ plus travelers. So they have like 80,000 properties all around the world since they've launched a couple years ago that are Proud certified. So I'll tell you more about the actual hotel and the process and stuff when we get into the episode. But I just wanted to say thanks to Booking and introduce the Travel Proud program, because you can use them around the world.
We have an Instagram reel about them, and it shows also your trip to Osaka if you want to check it out on Instagram.
But why don't we get back to those fun facts?
Okay, so the first fun fact. Osaka has a unique dialect. So this is known as Osaka Ben, and it's distinctly different from standard Japanese. So, for example, to say thank you, most of us know you say arigato. But for Osaka Ben, it would be ookini. Forgive me for my pronunciation. But
I did not learn that.
Isn't that interesting?
No, but I also didn't make a big effort to try and learn language, to be honest. I should have.
I mean, definitely, but I mean, Japanese is also a more difficult one. I asked our friend Stevie, a good friend of ours who's been on the podcast before, if she knows this, and of course she said she's aware of that, and I think she only knew the thank you that I just said, the ookini. And it can make it more difficult for Japanese learners to kind of understand Osakans when they're there.
Okay.
Fact number 2, fun fact. Osaka is known in Japan as the nation's kitchen. So there's, famously delicious foods in Osaka. I'm sure you had wonderful food while you were there. Yeah. Did you know it to be known as the nation's kitchen?
I think I did. I think I knew that it was well known for its food. So definitely. And
it's a big foodie place.
Yeah, I'll tell you later, I'll give you some tips about Osaka, and that's kind of one of them. It's one of the good things that you can experience in
3 dishes that are kind of recommended for Osaka. I'm curious if you tried any of them. The takoyaki, which is a fried ball-shaped snack.
Oh, those are delicious.
Octopus?
It's known as street food. So you buy it on the street. Of course, in Japan, there are no like garbage cans, so you can't take it with you and then eat it and throw your trash out. You have to carry your trash home, or eat it next to the street vendor and then leave your trash with them. So if you've never been to Japan, it's just a super weird thing that you find out right away.
Yeah,
is that there are no trash cans on the street.
But there's also no trash on the ground.
There's also no trash on the ground, exactly. So it's correlated.
Imagine that.
Yes.
What about? Help me with this word here. Okonomiyaki. Did you try okonomiyaki?
I think I did try that too. I actually think
so. This is a kind of savory pancake that can have different ingredients.
I don't think I tried it at a restaurant, but at our conference there was a lunch event where it was Osaka street food during the conference, and the food is actually crazy good for a conference. And I think I tried those there.
And the last one, what about kushikatsu? So this is skewered meat or vegetables that have been deep fried.
Yep.
I feel
I also had that at the convention, but also at some other places.
You just went to Osaka in October. I didn't go with you, but I have gone. I went with Stevie, but this would have been 2017-ish, I want to say. And I do remember having the skewered meat for sure that was deep fried. So we went to an event there in Osaka, a festival, which was fun. So did you go to the Dotonbari neighborhood? This is known
Yes, I did. Yeah, near Namba Station. Yeah, I was staying at Namba Station actually, so I could walk there. And that's where they have the famous mural of. It's actually a Filipino runner, but it's just an emblematic symbol of Osaka. It's the big city streets where all the lights are lit up and the buildings, and it's a very emblematic thing. People like to take a photo of the street runner who has his arms up like this and one leg up.
It's a statue or a mural?
It's a mural on the side of a building, and there's a river that runs through. So yeah, there's a lot of shopping in that area. Yep.
Okay, fact number 3. Osaka is home to the oldest Buddhist temple in Japan called Shinten. If you can say it, help me. Shintenoji, called Shintenoji Temple. Did you go to Shintenoji Temple?
I didn't go. I should have, and I wish I didn't visit any temples. I went to one shrine, but it was at night, so I didn't get to see it. I didn't have enough time in Osaka to properly explore it, which I'll talk about in the tips section.
Did you know that this was the oldest Buddhist temple there?
I didn't know that.
Okay, so this was established in the 6th century. So you missed out on something cool.
I did, yeah. I mean, again, I was there for a conference, so I didn't have as much time to visit and stuff as I wanted.
Last fun fact: Universal Studios Japan is the 3rd most visited theme park in the world. Did you go to Universal Studios?
No, but I know some people who did.
Oh, they got to
Yeah.
spend
Yeah.
time there.
Mhm.
Stevie went there as well last time she was in Japan. I super want to go. I think the first one is going to be the most visited is Magic Kingdom in Orlando, then Disneyland Anaheim, and then the third one will be Osaka.
Wow, I never would have guessed that. That is a fun fact.
Yeah, these are all thanks to Rustic Pathways.
Okay.
Okay, if you like the show, please subscribe to it on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you listen. Also, be sure to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy our episodes. Plus, if you're watching live on any social media platform, feel free to leave a comment or share the episode with your friends. You can also follow us on social media. We are always at 2Med Tourists.
So before we get into the second part of the podcast, I just want to thank our second sponsor, which is GigSky. So GigSky is an eSIM provider. So the reason I wanted to talk about them is when I went to Japan, of course, when you travel, you might not have cell service, right? And of course, you want to have cell service on the street, whether it's to check your Instagram or Google Maps or whatever.
Or Grindr.
Or Grindr, right? When you don't have access to Wi-Fi. So like the new like technology these days are what they call like eSIMs. So in the old days, you would take your SIM card out of your phone and buy one at the airport and insert it, and it was like a big hassle. You don't have to do that anymore. You can literally just sign up for a platform with an app and, pay. I think I paid like 15 US dollars for like 2 weeks, and it gave me access in all of Japan and all of South Korea, like 3 gigs of data, and you can just choose how much data.
And so you didn't have to go anywhere to get that.
I didn't have to go anywhere. You literally just download an app.
On your app.
Yeah. You download an app on your phone and you pay for whatever service you want. So I'm definitely going to use it on future trips. Most of the trips we do, like we're within Europe, so we don't have to. We have service on our phone, but anytime you're traveling where you don't have cell service, this is the service that we've started to use.
Easy.
Yeah. So I was really happy.
This is better than the days when we had our international phone.
Oh my God.
12 years ago, our international
technology has changed a lot. Like iPhones had just come out when we were traveling for like a year. So yeah, now you have like your newest iPhone, you just download it.
The kids don't know.
They don't know.
All right, well, let's get into your trip. So first of all,
and I was just gonna say, check the link in the show notes if you want to check out GigSky.
We'll put them all there.
Yep.
Okay, so let's get into the show. So first of all, why did you go to Osaka? You mentioned you were there for a conference, and also why didn't I go with you?
So number one, I was there for a conference, the IGLTA convention. It's the LGBTQ plus Travel Association that does their annual event. It was the first convention in the history of 40 years of an association in Asia. So that was like a big
deal.
milestone. Yeah, because obviously like Asia is not known to be as progressive with LGBT rights as, other places like North America and, Europe. So that was like a huge milestone. You didn't go because it's really expensive to fly to Japan. As much as we wanted you to go, the
last one I went to was in Milan, right?
Yeah,
and that's like,
80
euros round trip from Madrid.
Yeah.
Much easier, but it isn't easy to fly to.
Yeah, so I was there for like business reasons, making connections with different tourism brands and tourism boards and things like that. So like 4 of those days was spent at the conference, and then I spent 3 nights after the conference on my own. So the first 4 nights, I stayed at like the convention hotel at Namba Station, and then the third, those last 3 nights, I used Booking.com's Travel Proud program, and I found a hotel which is Hotel Intergate at Osaka Station. It's the Umeda Osaka Station, and so for those 3 days, I spent like exploring Osaka, not as many places as I should have, right? But I didn't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I did like 2 days of Osaka, and then I did 1 day from Osaka as the day trip to Nara, which is only like an hour by high-speed train, or maybe like 45 minutes by. No, I think it's like 30 minutes by high-speed train. I took the local train, which is cheaper. It's like an hour one way.
And that was your first time in Osaka, right? Because we had been to Japan before in around 2012, 2013. We went to Kyoto and Tokyo.
Correct.
So we didn't go to Osaka that time.
We didn't go to Osaka that time. So just to give you context, if you've never been to Japan, first of all, Japan is an amazing, amazing destination. It's so different than like Western countries that it feels like you're almost like on a different planet in a way, right? The culture is so different. There's not a lot of Western influence. So like you feel very like you really feel like you're in a foreign country.
Because their culture is almost it is resistant to the influence of other cultures. Right. They are very homogenous, for better or worse that way. But it does make it an interesting country to visit because it's like they're like even when immigrants move there, they need to assimilate. Even we've talked about that even with American culture. That was the case in the past, but now I think we're much more open to allowing other influences into our culture. But Japanese culture is very much like the Japanese way.
Yeah, and not only that, right? Like the not only the language, but the writing of the language, right? Like when you look at Japanese characters, you don't see or recognize anything. It's not like going to like a Latin country where maybe you don't speak the language, but you know the letter A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and
Yeah.
you can tell like, oh, I don't know what this word means, but I'm going to Kaye San Hermenegildo. You can read that,
Well,
but in
don't just put
Japan,
your address on the fucking podcast.
good luck finding it. I didn't give you my apartment number. But so like there was one time I got lost with Google Maps because I just didn't I couldn't I didn't even see that I actually clicked something wrong on Google Maps and switched to a different address because I couldn't
Yeah.
recognize the difference between the two addresses.
Yeah. When people ask me what my favorite country is that we've traveled to, you know, I never say Spain because that's such an obvious one because we moved here, and so my answer is always Japan because it is, as you said, so different from Western culture. And you know, even though Spain and Western Europe can have differences from North America, it's not that different. The way of life is quite similar when you compare it to Asian countries. When you compare it to Japan, and I think and it's also because it's just this island. It's like this island nation. It's incredible what they've accomplished, and they also feel like, and we've talked about this before, that they're like 5 to 10 years ahead of everyone else in the
technologically
future.
speaking. Yes. Like even 10 years ago, I remember we would go to restaurants and we'd be ordering on iPads.
Mhm.
Nowadays, like there's so many restaurants you go into and you never have to interact with like the server, the person. You just do it all on a computer or an iPad, and they just deliver.
And at the same time, having these ancient 1,000-year-old temples, so it's like a perfect mix of past, present, future.
For sure,
the best. So I am jealous that you got to go back.
Yeah. Well, so to focus a little bit more on Osaka. So of course, anyone visiting Japan, almost all the time, they tend to fly into Tokyo because that's the main international hub. But I would say after Tokyo, Osaka is probably the second main international hub. It's the second largest city. So for like Asian countries all around there, they all have direct flights to Osaka. If you're traveling from like Europe or North America, you won't find as many direct flights to Osaka. Most of them are going to be through Tokyo. But Osaka is sort of southwest, more centrally located in the island of Japan. Did you fly into
Tokyo then?
I actually flew in through South Korea. So I flew into Seoul, and then from Seoul I had a direct flight to Osaka. But basically, Osaka is a little bit more like in the center of the country in the island, but it's really, really close to two historic cities, Kyoto and Nara. So both Kyoto and Nara are amazing. Like you have to visit at least one of them, if not both, on any trip to Japan, I would say. They're like former capitals of the country, and they are well known for like having these amazing like temples, Japanese gardens, shrines, which are just like so cool. And Osaka is like by train, within half an hour or an hour to both of those cities. So it's like those three cities are all really, really near each other. And then from Tokyo, it's about like a 2-3 hour high-speed train ride to get to that region.
So you got to experience the gay scene in Osaka, right? Because you also were there during Osaka Pride.
Yes. So yeah. So,
well, so for our listeners and for LGBT travelers, I mean, how would you compare Osaka versus Tokyo when it comes to queer friendliness?
Okay, so the first thing I'll say about Japan is like, I guess when it comes to laws and things like that, like, homosexuality is legal. There's not really any problem with that. LGBT people have some rights and protections, maybe not as much as like Western Europe and US. Safety wise is fine. But the biggest difference is like culturally, it's not culturally accepted to be LGBTQ, right?
Yeah, and same-sex marriage isn't legal.
Same-sex marriage is not legal, but there are like being some challenges being fought from a legal perspective.
Yeah.
So it is because I would say in all of Asia, like besides maybe Taiwan and Thailand, it's in the top 3 for being the most progressive for LGBT rights.
They are making they are taking steps towards challenging that right now.
Exactly.
Right? It's not as if it's not being addressed.
Exactly.
It is being addressed.
And
right
the
now.
fact that our travel convention, our LGBT tourism convention was in Osaka was by no coincidence. The tourism office of Osaka basically fought to bring that convention here, in a way to move forward the LGBT sort of, fight and argument, because Osaka compared to Tokyo is actually known for being more LGBT welcoming
than Tokyo.
Yeah. And so that correlates with the fact that Tokyo is sort of like they call it like the imperial capital, right? It's where like the emperor is, it's where the government is based. Osaka has always been known as more of the like relaxed, more laid back culture because it's so far away from the capital.
Okay.
So like where all the laws are being passed, it's more like conservative.
Okay.
Whereas Osaka, it's farther away. And so the people are known for being more like outgoing, more relaxed. And so that correlates with, I think, being more accepting of LGBT people.
Okay, so the perspective of LGBT people in Osaka is a little bit more open than Tokyo, but what about the actual venues? I mean, there are more venues in Tokyo.
There
I
are
imagine,
definitely
'cause
more
it's just
venues in
it's just a larger
Tokyo.
city.
Yeah. So there's definitely, in fact, I think Tokyo has more gay bars than any city in the world. But it's really weird because I don't want to use the word like on the DL, on the down low, but gay bars are they're a little bit more hidden. Like they're maybe literally underground, or just in like, streets where you don't really see them. And so like being out in public, being LGBT in public is not really common in any place in Japan. But Osaka, out of all the cities in Japan, is the most forward, most progressive. Yeah, I was there for Pride. They
Okay.
have like a visible public Pride march, and it is a march. It was super weird.
Tell us about Pride. How
I
was
got to
Pride?
actually like be on let's call it a float, but it wasn't really a float. It was just a truck,
Okay.
and there were four of us. There was a drag queen and me and three other people, and all the other people were like marching, and there was probably maybe 500 people more or less marching in the parade.
Okay, so on the smaller side when you compare to some big European cities, for
Yeah,
example.
definitely. And alongside the route where we were marching, there were some spectators, but not that many, right? The only spectators
Interesting.
were other people that had specifically come out for that were going to go back to the Pride Park right after.
So it's a march more than it is a celebratory parade,
Yeah,
right? Because
definitely.
there's that distinction.
It's a demonstration.
Between, yeah,
It's
exactly.
definitely a demonstration, like fighting for rights.
Okay.
And it was super weird because I have never seen this in any city in the world, but they didn't shut down traffic for the parade. They shut down one lane. And so we were in the one lane that was like if you can imagine like a street like Japan, the traffic flows on the left side. So we were in the leftmost lane. And so that lane was reserved for the parade. But there were just cars driving next to us. It was super weird. It was awkward.
Going both directions or just one direction?
Yeah, going both directions. But because traffic, so
they just blocked the leftmost lane.
They just So the people who were watching were on the sidewalk, and so we were next to the left sidewalk, and we kind of just went around like this loop where they had the one lane blocked off, but traffic just flowed. So it was kind of like, yeah, we'll let you have this parade, but we're not going to like disrupt like life in Osaka for this parade. It was really weird. I don't know what they do for other types of marches and things. And maybe in Japan, like demonstrations and marches are actually not that common. I don't actually really know, to be honest with you.
I mean, so when it ended, was there a place that people went to?
There was like a
pride
park.
Okay.
And so there was probably like 100 different booths, and I was actually surprised. The Pride Park was quite big. There was probably like 500,000 people at the park, and that lasted for the weekend, the Saturday and the Sunday.
Okay.
There were different drag shows scheduled throughout like the weekend at different venues. So it was like I was surprised by how visible the Pride was, and actually there were signs for the Pride and like advertisements in public, but they were all in English, right? So it was kind of like if you didn't read English, you might not even know what it was. So it was kind of interesting.
Not
right?
even
like,
in Japanese as well?
Like there were more Pride-based advertisements in English and less in Japanese. So it was almost like, okay, if you're a foreigner, you'll see this Pride advertisement, know what it is, but if you're Japanese, you might not.
Interesting.
It was kind of interesting. Yeah.
Would you say like is Osaka Pride an event that's worth traveling to Osaka for?
No, I wouldn't like. It's not a like interesting enough event on its own for foreigners to like plan a trip around.
Yeah. Okay.
Like to specifically go for that.
Yeah.
Now, if you happen to be going, so they do their Pride in October, and like if you're choosing between weeks and it happens to be Pride and you can just
you might
as well. But I like personally, I would choose going to Osaka based on like a cheaper flight price than I would like to go for the Pride, right? Because it's not like an event in itself.
Yeah, not like a Madrid
however,
Pride.
Now with that said, like the parade and the Pride Park itself, no, I wouldn't necessarily plan around. But because it was Pride, there were actually events and drag shows and like bigger things that wouldn't normally happen around the year. So that like, parties and things like that. So that
Hmm.
part was more interesting. So perhaps maybe if you like, want to see like Japanese drag, but then again, like, a lot of not all, but some of the queens are like foreigners, some are locals, but
Okay.
a lot of the drag queens were foreigners too. So it was kind of, it was sort of like partly Western culture trying to like be part of the Pride, and it was obviously locally organized and based, but you definitely felt the foreign participation.
Did the drag queens perform? Did you get to see?
I actually didn't go to any of the drag
Oh,
shows. I only saw some of the drag queens that were on the float with me and stuff like that. Yeah, so like I mentioned, the Osaka Tourism Board are the ones that they brought the convention to Japan, and they have a website which we can include in the show notes, but it's really easy. Visit gayosaka.com. It's just a really good resource to like find out, what are good resources if you're traveling to Osaka, the
for queer
LGBT scene, queer
travelers.
travelers, things like that. So you can visit that website.
I did read that they are challenging same-sex marriage like in the courts in
Yeah.
Japan right
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
and
I've
so
read
and I
that too.
think that they determined that it was unconstitutional to deny same-sex marriage to same-sex couples. So I mean, it hasn't gone anywhere to legalize same-sex
Right.
marriage yet, but
I wouldn't be surprised if within the next 5 years it's legalized in Japan. It could be in one
that's
year, it could be in
great.
4 years,
That's
it could be
huge.
in five. But I mean, they're probably one of the next countries in Asia that will do it. I think so far it's Taiwan and Thailand. And is there
Hmm,
a third one?
no idea.
I can't remember. There might be a third one. There might only be two, but Japan's definitely one of the next on the list. I would say for
That's
sure.
exciting. Okay, so after your trip, you were there for about 7 days, right?
Yeah, in Osaka. Yep.
So you already recommend going with the cheap flight, not necessarily for Pride, unless that works out. But do you have any more tips that you can offer our listeners who might want to go visit Japan and Osaka specifically?
Yeah, I would say one thing to know about Osaka is like to set expectations, right? Osaka is a working city, right? So when you go to Osaka, it's not like there are tourist attractions like on every corner, right? It's
Well,
it's a working city.
there is Universal Studios though,
Yeah, that's true. But I mean for foreigners, right?
and yeah,
As opposed to like a city like Kyoto or Nara, like these are ancient capitals that have like tons of places that tourists are going to visit, right? Whereas Osaka is a city of, I don't know, like 5 or 10 million. It's a working class city. Like it's a nice city, but it's a city, right? And
yeah,
so the
okay.
things that you're going to see in Osaka, there are some tourist attractions, right? Like the main ones, like the Osaka Castle is probably the most famous thing. Like if you look at photos of Osaka, the Osaka Castle is white. It's like the symbol, it's like the Eiffel Tower of Paris. The Osaka Castle is that to
Did you
Osaka,
go
right?
see it?
Yeah, and it's
Okay.
super cool, and the park is, great. And like you said, there are a few like temples and shrines that are well known. You can go for the food. The food is great. If you've never been to Japan, like you're gonna, a big Japanese city is going to be interesting, right? It's
Yeah.
going to be new, but it's just a big city, right?
Yeah, when you compare it to a place like Kyoto that has kind of aren't the geishas in Kyoto as well?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
it,
So, like, I my recommendation would be if you're going to be in that region, like either visit Osaka as a day trip because you're staying in Kyoto or Nara, or do the opposite. Like, base yourself in Osaka because maybe you took the train or you flew in there, and then go as day trips to Kyoto and Nara.
can
Right?
you do a day trip from Tokyo to Osaka?
No,
It's too far.
nah, it's a little too far.
Okay, so you
It's like
can,
a two and a
but
half
you
hour
can to
high speed.
Kyoto from Tokyo.
I mean, you can. You technically can. The bullet train, I think, from Tokyo to that region is about 2 hours.
Oh
So you
yeah, it's
technically
long.
could do it, but it would be a long
But
and
it is a
intense
good
day.
hub then to go see Kyoto, Nara,
Yeah, and
stay
I
in
would like
Osaka, and then you get big city
as a
life,
destination of
KC.
itself, like if you stay for 2 nights, that's probably enough for you to see Osaka, and you probably won't feel like you'll probably feel like you saw everything you wanted to see. It's not like a place that you need to stay for a week, I would say. So I think that's kind of my. But of course, it is the only place that you're going to find the gay scene, right? Like Kyoto and Nara are not going to have that.
There's
So if
also
you want to
I
go to
went
like the gay bars and experience that, that's definitely a cool aspect of Osaka.
yeah,
I would base your trip around a cultural festival if you could.
exactly. This is
Hmm.
I can't remember which one I went to, but Steven and I went there for a festival, and I remember it just
Yeah, I
being
just
a
feel like
really fun time.
Japanese culture is so interesting and so unique, and they just have such a certain way of doing things that being able to see that at some type of a cultural festival. It's a really cool experience. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I am jealous, and I can't wait to be back in Japan. Do you think you'll go back
I
to
de-
Japan? Will you make another trip?
Honestly, I had such a good time in Japan that it reminded me how much I love
Yeah,
Japan.
it's
I
so
want to go
great.
back already,
It's
to
one
be
of the
honest.
best
It's really
places.
cool.
The only unfortunate thing is it is a trek
It's
to get
so
there.
far.
It is not cheap, even when you're there. How? That's another good question. How are the prices in Osaka? 'Cause I
So
remember Tokyo being
interestingly,
expensive.
the yen, the conversion rate, yen to like dollar or euro, for example, the yen is like historically low, I believe, if I understand.
Right now?
Yeah. So when I was on the ground, like buying food, doing things in Osaka, I never like looked at the prices and thought anything was expensive.
Oh,
But
that's
I do
interesting.
remember thinking things were expensive when you and I went 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that is because of the currency. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, thinking about Japan, maybe because of the conversion,
Right
now is
now
actually a
is
great time to go. The flight will be expensive, but once you're on the ground, I think you can take advantage of
did you
the low
eat
conversion rate.
at was it Circle K?
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven. Did you eat at
7-Eleven. Yeah,
7-Eleven?
yeah, yeah.
Pro tip if you want to save. Did you eat there?
Yeah, I bought a lot of stuff from
Because they have
7-Eleven.
there's a pro tip, if you wanna save money, eat at 7-Eleven because it's, like, quality food, like, unlike in the US where it's disgusting three-week-old hot dogs,
Yeah,
there it's, like, fresh, delicious, like, little rice and seafood wraps and
yeah, or you can
just
buy like little like ramen bowls, and you can even like microwave it there and like fill it with water.
so good, and you can really save
Seven
a buck
Eleven's
there.
actually a really great place to go to the ATM. So like if you need to pull out cash, 7-Eleven has like their own bank. That's I went to 7-Elevens to get like cash all the time, because in Japan they have like different banking systems and not every ATM will
Oh,
accept a
interesting.
foreigner's card.
You had an issue with your card when you were there. Oh, 'cause
Yeah,
of
so in Osaka, I mean, they don't actually take credit like Western credit cards like Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover. I don't even know why I said that. But like in many places in Japan, they don't take those cards. In I think Tokyo they do, right? But in Osaka, like
they don't
to
take Visa?
no, like when you go to the subway in Osaka and you need to buy a subway pass or a ticket, the machines don't take foreign cards. The only way you can do it is if you go if that station is like a main station and it has a ticket counter and you go to an agent, they'll have a machine that accepts foreign
That's
credit cards.
wild. So how did
So
you do it? Did you use cash?
yeah, so Japan is I was being told like Japan is still a very cash heavy country.
That's
I
interesting.
forget what the stat is. They told me like around 60% of the transactions in Japan are still made with cash, whereas like in Western Europe and North America, like it's 95% card these days. So
Yeah,
that's definitely a different
that
thing.
surprises me.
Yeah, so I'm not used to having to pull out cash
Could
to
you use
use.
Apple Pay?
Only if it accepted a foreign credit card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you texting me having some issue about.
Yeah, and so I hadn't prepared myself to like what card was I going to use or my Wise
That's a
account to pull
really
out,
good
because I'm used to going to foreign
tip.
countries and not really even just being able to pay with credit card these days. So yeah, that's a pro tip.
All right. Any other things you want to mention about Osaka before we wrap it up?
I think that's it.
You had a good time
I
then?
had a great time. Love Japan.
I hope to go back to Japan too.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to season 4. Thanks for listening to our first episode. If you like the show, please subscribe to it on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you listen. Also, be sure to leave a 5-star review if you enjoy our episodes. Plus, if you're watching live on any social media platform, feel free to leave a comment or share the episode with your friends. You can follow us on social media. We are always at Two Bad Tourists. And lastly, please feel free to leave a comment about what you would like to hear more of.
So for our next episode, stay tuned. We will be talking to one of the founders from Reunion, Costa Rica. So they are a not-for-profit beachfront healing center offering ayahuasca and how do you say this? Psilocybin ceremonies. So it's basically like plant-based medicine complemented by ancient and modern modalities. So meant to ignite your very best life.
So we're gonna hear all about what they're offering on their retreats. I think they have some queer focused.
They do, yeah. So
retreats.
they do general retreats and plant medicine treatments, but then they also have like 3 to 4 LGBT specific retreats. So we're going to be talking with them on our next episode. So I'm super excited because that's like such a niche, kind of unique. I've never heard of any place like that before.
Yeah, I got some good questions.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk to him about it as well. So